welcome back to any of the Yu-Gi-Oh players that still are subscribed to me that I have left. Um, it's definitely been a while since I've done anything Yu-Gi-Oh related. Small update before I get into this montage. Um, the reason for that is primarily because after LP got hit, I don't think the Dragon Maid strategy is as strong as it used to be. It's mostly just seal control with any whatever engine you think is good. There just wasn't much to talk about. I think it's still like playable. I think it's definitely still competitive, but you definitely lose to hand traps or going second cards a lot more now, just because it's your end board isn't consistent. Like the deck can consistently make a play, but like I don't I'm of the opinion that Seal's Turbo isn't a winning play, because if it was, Dragon Link would be tier 0 right now, since they literally make Seals as a prerequisite, but that's obviously not the case, right? So I think I still think the deck is strong. I just don't think there's much to say about it with the current support pool. So I'm just waiting for that deck to get more support, or any indirect support. But that's not really what we're talking about today. We're talking about my other favorite deck, Exorsister. So this deck is fun. This is a very interesting tempo deck where, similar to Sky Striker, you use your I would guess your nuns in your main deck, and your I guess they would be knights because they're all warriors. So like you have the main deck nuns, and then you have the warriors in the extra deck, where the nuns have the effect where an opponent moves a card from the graveyard, doesn't matter how. If they're face up on the field when a card moves, they can tag into the Xe monster, any of their Xe monsters, Zodiac style. So like one card Xyz, which is really strong and has potential to get busted really quickly. But the deck is definitely not Zodiac. There are a couple issues that I would say hinder it, but this was a build I found to enjoy the most. I optimized it pretty well. You're probably wondering why I chose not to play Pot of Desires. There's a specific reason for why I didn't like Pot of Desires, but I do think you can still play it. The main reason I didn't like it is because I think this is the perfect ratio of nuns. I think 3 of the 2 that are extenders, especially since they combo with themselves, they are the best 2 in your hand in most cases, and then 2 of the ones that don't like combo with each other or themselves. So if like you opened Elise and Sophia, Elise and Stella, you have a play. If you open Elise and any of them, you have a play. Same thing with Stella. But if you open Elaine and Sophia, you have no play. If you open Sophia and Sophia, you have no play, and vice versa. I mean, the best you can do with Elaine is shuffle back and draw an extender. So I felt this ratio was perfect, and the reason why, yes, I know Sophia draws a card, is because packs exists, right? And packs ends up being 3 extra copies of each of these cards when you want to see them. So the theory behind it is you open these 2 and you open packs or one of these 2 and you find them anyway, right? Like you want to search them, you don't want to draw them, and I felt it's worked for me. Currently they also like don't play as well with the Zorora because he negates their effects, whereas like these 2, they don't really have effects that activate with Zora anyway. So I rather have these 2 in my deck where they have good on field effects, as opposed to these 2 that are just really there to like be extenders, or these 2 that are there to be like extenders in the main deck. And then I played Nefariousness because he's the best extender that's a pure extender, while Zora is the best extender that's also recovery. You'll see how very powerful this card ends up being, and why I think 3 of each is really good for the long run. King of the Sky Prison, I think this card's fantastic. You'll see it in the montage. There's a duel where I like open nothing but hand traps and like crossout designator and Sky Prison, and I just reveal Sky Prison, set designator, hand trap my opponent, then use the Sky Prison to start my entire engine. On top of it just protecting like your set cards, which is really good because I didn't want to play Judgment. I wanted to play Strike. I really like Strike. I think Strike is like super good right now. Just because a lot of the decks are playing low impact enablers that are very recursive, but generally speaking, the summons need to resolve properly in order for the the strikes. I mean, the summon needs to resolve properly in order for their advantage engine to keep going. Something like Sword Soul, for example, could lose everything to a strike. So I really like the card. I think him being able to set any spell or trap card from your deck while simultaneously protecting them while they're on the field is a very good 2 of extender with air quotes. For hand traps, I played 3 Ash, 2 Veiler, the 1 Nib, just because Nib technically doesn't matter too much if you open Vadis. If you get Nib, it doesn't matter, but it could come up in cases where you don't. There's some games I've lost to just getting nibbed in what is essentially a very slow control deck, but it happens. And then Impermanence is just really good. It works well with Sky Prison if you don't open any other engine, which is good. And obviously I already talked about Strike. For the extra deck, I felt these 2 were actually the best 2 cards you could play. You could technically play Relona. It depends entirely on the format. The only reason I chose Nina Ruru is for the simple fact is so the way Zora works is, and the way the deck works in general, is you heavily telegraph your the fact that your deck needs 2 monsters on the field to do anything by virtue of just playing this deck. So if your opponent has something like a Borreload Savage Dragon and you summon Zora, they are in the clear to just negate Zora and you're screwed anyway, right? I just chose this card because it forces back row. It can get rid of annoying cards, or it can like get rid of something that your opponent may have wanted to save for like using Mikalis or Zeus. So I think Nina Ruru in application was better. I don't think I said too much about Crossout and Called By. You obviously play them to protect your investment, but the main reason you have to play this card is because of Vadis. You lose the game if your opponent ashes Vadis on their turn. You lose the game right there because your engine isn't competent enough. Your monsters aren't competent enough to cover the slack. You need to resolve this card and exceed summon off of it in order to guarantee you might win that game. It's a very feast or famine design, where if you have to resolve this card to its fullest potential, or you just lose right there. So that's why you have to have this card. It is what it is. 3 Michael is the best one. She's the best removal, and she's the best play starter. She finds everything. She literally finds everything because she finds packs, which finds everything. So you have to play her at 3. I wish you could play her at 4. She's just that good. 2 Capistel, you play 2. You only really need 1 in a game to establish momentum, but you play 2 because of certain combos where you're at 3 card combos where you're allowed to make Utopic Future Drago alongside Vadis, which is really strong. So you play 2, as well as her natural interaction on your opponent's field. And then you play 1 of each. I didn't think you needed more. I don't think there was ever a case where I felt like I needed 2 of either one of these. Jibrian's effect is covered heavily by like natural cards, and then Usofiel, generally speaking, the type of decks that lose to like Abyss Dweller also probably lose to Zeus. So being able to turn off the extra deck for a turn and then make a Zeus with her is generally going to win you that game. Not turn off the extra deck, turn off the graveyard, and then it's gonna win you that game in most cases. It's very rare unless your opponent has an out to Zeus, and usually that requires cards that aren't in archetype to do, like something like a Droplet. And then you play 1 Vespinate, the Spinebreaker. This card's fantastic. So the main issue with the deck's turn 1 play is like 2 cards. Your turn 1 play is just Vadis, whatever you got in your hand, go, right? But with Vespinate, it allows you to turn the Michael that you would leave on the field doing nothing into legitimate follow-up that I feel actually it deters your opponent from just attacking. It should deter your opponent from just attacking your cards, and if like it survives, you just make Zeus with it. So like it's a win-win if it lives. If it dies, you get something back, right? It can be a Zorora, it can be anything here. Like it's really strong for those 2 card combos. You play Utopic Future Dragon engine for the potential turn 1 play. or you play it for the Vadis, where once you use Vadis and you summon 2 Xyz on your turn, you use their effects to like gain attack, search, whatever, and then you make Future Dragon with it, right? Like it's the best way to optimally use your materials. I play 1 Chakanine and 1 Borbo just because breaking heavier boards will sometimes require multiple Zeus sends, and with Chakanine you can make Borbo, and then you get 2 uses of Zeus, which is very nice for the extra deck space. And obviously the 1 Zeus side deck is experimental. I hate back row quite a bit. This deck really struggles against bad decks, if that's a funny thing to say. You'll end up losing more games more often to just your opponent setting cards to your board than like them actually attempting to play through it. So yeah, this deck struggles against rogue aggro and like rogue stun. Those 2 decks really bully you because your cards don't really interact with them very favorably. Anyways though, that's gonna be it for the pre-discussion. You can skip this portion if you obviously don't care. That's fine. This is just my current build and my opinions on the deck. I'm just gonna now move into the actual montage, and I'll see you guys next time for the next piece of Yu-Gi-Oh content I put out. Until then, this is Sorabel. Enjoy the video. I'll see you next time. Take care. Adios.